So finding historical newspapers online is relatively simple, and the library has several different databases that do online newspapers now. One of them is the ProQuest Historical Newspapers, which has many big city newspapers like Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal. And the main newspaper in that database is the New York Times. So in our collection, it's broken into two different sections, two different databases. So if we go to the Browse Database list, and I go to H, and then under Historical Newspapers, this is the database that contains a bunch of different newspapers across the country. But I'm not going to search that one. I'm going to go ahead and do the New York Times just to make it easier. There'll be fewer results to worry about. So I just click on N, and I'm going to New York Times Historical. And if you're off campus, you may be required to, you will be required to do a secure access login with your 700 number. So there we are. So here's the search, the advanced search for ProQuest Historical Newspapers. It's just a typical search. I mean, you can search different parts of the record or the article, but keeping it at anywhere will probably do the job. You can also control by date, but you probably won't need to do this when you do your initial search. You can change the dates later. And then you can search by document type. So if there's a particular part of the newspaper you're looking for, like say a front page article or maybe some marriage announcements or obituaries, you can limit your search to that. So I'm just going to search Pearl Harbor. And Pearl Harbor gets me 51,940 results. And if we look carefully at the first one, we see that it comes from August 30th, 1945. Well, that isn't going to tell me much about the initial response or reaction to the attack on Pearl Harbor. So why did it give me this right off the bat in 1945? Well, that's because it's sorted by relevance. We can have it sort by oldest or most recent first, but there are other ways to limit the date, and that's down here with the publication date. So we can enter a date range, but before I do that, take note of the little decades marker here. This shows you the number of articles published or in certain decades with Pearl Harbor in it. So from 1880 to 1889, there are 251 records that contain Pearl Harbor. In the 30s, there were 4,516. Not surprising. In the 40s, that number went up to over 15,000, and then it sort of leveled off again. So we're interested in December 7th, 1941. So let's just grab the month of December in 1941. There we go. So we have the month of December in 1941. We update, and now we get 355 results. And the first one is from December 11th. So again, that's by relevance. So let's just change this to the oldest first. And that will actually get us starting at December 3rd. So we have an obituary from December 3rd, but then we get into December 8th and we start seeing articles on the actual attack. So we'll grab the first one. And here is a PDF of that particular article on the attack on Pearl Harbor. So we can do the typical things with this PDF. We can download it, just that article. We can do a cite. And again, with cites, be very careful about whether or not they fill the actual style guideline that you're using. You may need to do some editing once you get it into your paper. We can email the article or a link back to the article, or we can print it. Now this is true of all the different PDF versions we'll see here, so this is where you would go to take care of that. Well, let's say we want to see this in its full context, so we would click Page View, and that would show us the front page of the paper on that day. So here they are with all of the articles, and it's pretty small, bit tough to see, but we're just using this really as kind of a guide to headlines and the like. And we could download the whole thing and see it in a better, in a bigger, by using, say, Adobe Acrobat or something like that, but we really don't need to for our purposes here. So we can browse through the issue. So this is that issue of the New York Times. Again, we can't click on the articles, but if we want to see the different articles, then we have to do this other format, which is browse this issue. And that changes it to this format, which the articles are then clickable. So if we want to look at this article, we could click on that, and it would open up the article there. So that's a little tricky to know to do that, but again, we can go through each page and click on whatever we need to on that page. Sometimes this is the only way you'll see the actual pictures, is these full text or the full page PDFs. Because of copyright issues, they sometimes will not appear. In this case, they do. But just be wary of that sometimes copyright won't allow them to reproduce the pictures on the article PDF. So you may have to look at the page view PDF if you want to see the actual picture or get a copy of it in a PDF format.